We got a 2003 Audi A4 1.8 liter turbo, and we're gonna show you how to replace the coolant flange, the one on the back of the head. These cars have a lot of problems with them. They crack all the time. It's located down there on the back of the head. By taking the intake shower out, you're gonna have to probably take the top part of the airbox off, or maybe a whole airbox, whichever is easier for you. Disconnect the mass airflow sensor. Be careful with the connectors. Remember, you gotta press on it and then pull on the pin to release it. Disconnect the secondary air injection intake hose. You gotta press on the sides of the connector, and it's gonna separate the clips. Disconnect the PCV system. We're gonna have to unbolt this pipe and probably remove it to get more access space to the flange. Gonna have to disconnect the secondary air injection pipe that goes to the combi valve. Be careful with this hose over here. It's a little elbow. They very brittle. After a while, they just fall apart in your hands. So get a new one, just in case. Most likely you will break it while taking this pipe off. Here's the part number. It's pretty expensive, probably about 30 bucks in the dealership. So get a new hose right away, because you're most likely gonna break it. You're gonna have to disconnect the vacuum line that goes from the purge valve to the air intake hose. Disconnect them both sides so you don't rip the intake hose. We use a 90-degree big tool to spread the hoses, original clamp or the hose clamps, because we like to reuse original hose clamps. If you don't have a tool, or if you don't want to mess around with it, just cut it off, and then you're gonna have to put a regular hose clamp on it. Unclip the harness from the airbox. Now you could pull the airbox out. Make sure you take that weir on top of the airbox. There's a little pin that goes through that clip. There's a pin. You take that pin out, and you could slide the clip out of the frame. On the bottom, the box is sitting in the rubber grommets, so just pull it up, lubricate the grommets. Like, you're gonna have to take them off, put them back into the frame, and lubricate them so the box goes in easily. See over there, you got two holes for those grommets. Now we're gonna need to take these pipes off. You got a 8mm bolts holding a heat shield onto the pipes. Well, one bolt is missing, but we got another one in the back over here. Take those out. Then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 5mm hex bolts holding the whole pipe assembly down to the head. You're gonna have to separate these clamps over here and take that clamp from the combi valve off. Take the shield completely out, so you're gonna have to unbolt 4 8mm bolts. Once again, if you have them. Well, you should have them, but most of the times, most of them are missing. Unclip the wiring harness on the back of the pipe on there. Try not to break the clip like this one. We have replacement zip ties like that, but try not to break yours. If you do break it, get a new one, or you just zip tie it to the pipe. It's not a big deal. If you want it to be looking original, get a new one. Really the clamps. Somebody's been here already. If it would be original, it would be a regular crimp clamp. Somebody's been doing some work to this thing. Also, at this time, you can see the valve cover gasket is leaking. It would be a good idea to do it at the same time. You can see that the hose just broke. This thing is like plastic now, so we have replacement elbows. And like I said, make sure you get a new one ahead of time. These things like they break very easily. It used to be rubber before, so. See, here's a new elbow. We keep them in stock because it's flexible. It's like it's rubber holes. We keep them in stock just because every time we touch this elbow, it's almost guaranteed. If we need to take it off, it's almost guaranteed that it's gonna break unless somebody just replaced it recently. So when you're gonna be doing this job, when you're gonna be trying to take this elbow off, don't even try to. Get a new one right away. So we cut the rest of the elbow off with the grinder. Make sure not to cut the pipe, because if you're gonna try to take it off with a screwdriver or something like that, you're most likely gonna damage the pipe as well. So just cut it off. It's easier like that. Clean the area around the above the coolant flange, so you don't have any dirt falling in there. Just get it to work in a clean area, then all greasy. Well, we're gonna remove the combi valve to get a little bit more access to it. Well, a little wrench for that. It's a 5mm hex bolts. It's 3 of them on it. When you're removing it, make sure not to lose the gasket. You could reuse the combi valve gasket. It's okay to reuse it. Just put some gasket sealer on it. Not the silicone, but some spray, like a glue spray, on the gasket, and it's gonna be fine. Just make sure not to lose the gasket itself. You can really see the bolts, but you gotta feel them. But before that, try to get in there with a mirror or something like that, just to make sure you're unbolting the right stuff. Disconnect the vacuum hose from the combi valve. Pull the combi valve out. Also, see the gasket? Usually gets stuck to the combi valve. But make sure you don't lose it. That will be a good time to check your combi valve as well, to prevent the problems with the secondary air injection. And now you got a little bit more access to the coolant flange. See the green thing? This is a coolant temperature sensor. Should replace it as well while you're in it. I'll show you in a second how the flange looks, how it's bolted. Alright, here's the coolant flange itself. See, it's leaking. That nut you see, it's holding the oil supply line to the turbocharger. You gotta take that nut off, slide the turbocharger oil supply line off. You're gonna have to take this 8mm or 6mm bolt off, hex bolt. You got two of them on the head, so to release the line. So take those two bolts off, take the nut off, slide the line off, and on the other side of the flange you got another bolt just like that. But prior to unbolting the flange itself, you're gonna have to remove all the hoses, like this heater core hose. You gotta remove before you take the flange off, or otherwise you're gonna have a big problem removing the hose off the flange when the flange is not bolted down. See, now you could slide the oil supply line off the flange. Side of the flange, you can't really see behind the hoses and the wiring, but there is a PCV line that's bolted down the same way as the oil line to the flange. So you're gonna have to take that off. You're gonna probably have to feel it with your hands before I can really get to show you where the bolt is exactly. It's right down there. Right there. Yep. See the nut? Now you could slide that PCV hose off the flange. Now you have this hose over here. See, it's elbowing out and it's connected to the coolant flange. Well, somebody's been there already and they flipped the clamp upside down. So we're gonna try to get there with the clamp pliers and release the clamp. There's a clamp just like this one over here at the end of this elbow, the rubber elbow. I also had some wire harness zip tied to the coolant hose, so release anything that's zip tied to the coolant hose. See it? Somebody did us a favor and put a clamp upside down. Probably the motor was replaced and they did it outside the car. So make sure you flip it. If that happened to your car, make sure you flip the flange or the clamp the way it's more comfortable for you to release it. You're gonna have to release the heater core hose. There's a clip on the hose connector. You gotta pull the clip a little bit out and pull the hose off. Make sure you don't break the connector. Now we got all the hoses off the flange. The flange is free to come out. We gotta unbolt those two bolts with studs. Where is it? These guys, one on this side and the other one is across from it, and take the flange off. At this point you should have something under your car to catch the coolant. It will be leaking out. We've drained the coolant to do some other work on the coolant system before. That's why there was no coolant leaking when we took the hoses off. But if that's the only thing you're doing, you will have coolant in there. So put something under the car to catch the coolant. Pretty much most of this job you're gonna have to feel the bolts instead of looking at them, because you can't really see in behind all the stuff. We got them out. So now the coolant flange is free to come out. Here's our coolant flange. This thing is cracked. The O-ring is messed up. It's missing out. See, this is a new flange. See, there's a lip inside the flange. It's missing on this flange. The O-ring is crushed, completely gone. At this point, put a new sensor in there with a new O-ring and a clip, just to make sure you don't have any problems with the sensor. Always use original flanges. We've tried a lot of aftermarket flanges. The price difference is not as much, maybe $10, $15, $20, but we've had a lot of problems with aftermarket flanges. So use only original flange. We got a new sensor. New sensor, new clip. Now put her in. Alright. Yeah. This is the location of the coolant flange. You must clean the surface very truly. And if the car has been using wrong coolant, you might see a lot of pitting around the hole. If you see pitting around the hole, you got a problem. It depends on how deep is the pitting. You might have to take the head off to send it to a machine shop to machine it, because the pitting will make it leak again. So this one looks alright. We're gonna clean it right now and put a new flange in there. Lubricate the new O-ring on the sensor. Put some gasket sealer onto the O-ring. This is not a silicone, it's just it works like a glue basically. So slide the sensor in, prepare the new flange for installation. You're all set to go. Now clean the surface and put her in. Alright, we cleaned the sealing surfaces. Now we're gonna put the flange in. Alright, we got our new flange ready to go. Better have somebody helping you. So when you slide the flange in, you slide it right into the hose right away. That coolant hose on the other side. Slide the flange right away into the hose. Make sure your O-ring is still there. That's it.
I'm good?
Mm-hmm.
What about clamp? Is good?
Clamp. Yep, the clampers are good.
Perfect.
Goes in much easier. See, put the heater core clamp pin back in and clip it onto the flange. Now put the bolts back into the flange. Make sure the O-ring stays flat in the flange. You're gonna have to play around with the flange and the bolts to align the bolt holes, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Once you put the bolt in, don't tighten it all the way. Put another one, the other side bolt in as well, then you could tighten it. Always pay attention to the O-ring under the flange, so make sure that the O-ring is still in place and doesn't come out. When you're putting the flange in, make sure nothing gets between the flange and the head. Make sure that the upper bolt of the flange, the PCV pipe brackets, go on top of the flange. Make sure they don't get under the flange, because you might break the flange that way. There's gonna be two brackets bolted with the flange at the top bolt. One of the brackets, the bigger bracket, is gonna be bolted with the same bolt as the flange, and then the bolt has a stud on it. The other smaller hose that goes to the other side of the head, that thing is gonna be mounted on that stud with the nut. You could barely see the flange and the brackets on them. Right there, deep inside in that crack. Deep inside, deep inside. See, this is the flange, and you got brackets bolted with it. I now put the oil supply line back on. Bolted at the flange location first. Just start the bolts at the side of the head, tighten it at the flange, and then tighten the other 6mm bolts on the side of the head. Those guys, 1 and 2. Connect the temperature sensor. Also make sure when you're putting the sensor in that you put her in the way that it's going to be most comfortable for you to disconnect it once you need to disconnect it. So if you're putting it in, the tab should be facing the back of the car. Before you put the combi valve in, it would be a good idea to try to blow through it. If it doesn't blow through, it's good. Now you gotta vacuum, put a vacuum hose in it, make some vacuum in there. Try to blow through. If it closes and opens, you're good to go. If it doesn't close or it doesn't open, you need a new combi valve, or in a couple of weeks you're gonna be replacing the secondary air injection pump. So check the valve before you put her in. It's the best idea to check it once it's off the car and you're doing some other work, instead of putting your bed valve back in and then replacing it again, doing most of this job again, and maybe spending several more $100s for a new secondary air injection pump. I'm gonna put some more gasket sealer on the coolant, on the combi valve gasket. Make sure not to lose the gasket again, and put her in. You'll be able to see the holes, the bolts of a combi valve, so align them, put her in. Don't forget the vacuum line. Now we're gonna put all the piping back in. Then a heat shield, air box, and you're all set. Here's our new elbow. Every time we do something like that, we try to reuse the original clamps. We just take them off carefully. And we have a special crimping tool to crimp them back. Heat shield back on. Those 8mm bolts. Secure the oxygen sensor wire. Don't forget to crimp all the clamps back on, or tighten them if you're using different clamps. The coil pack harness have clips on the head. They are reusable. When you're doing anything with this harness, don't take these clips out, you'll break them. Just cut the zip ties off. You could slide a new set of zip ties into the clips and zip tie it again. You will break the clips if you're going to be taking them out. Right, now we're gonna put the airbox back in. Don't forget to put the grommets into the frame first and lube them so the box goes in easily. fill your coolant system up. There's a bleeder right over here, 5mm bolt, and you are all set. Make sure to fill your coolant with the original coolant, G12 or now G13. The dealers don't sell G12 anymore. G13 is compatible with G12, so make sure to put the right coolant into the car. If you use different coolant than original, you will damage the aluminum parts in the engine. Open the bleeder screw. Don't take it out all the way. Get hand tight. Put the coolant in there. So we're putting water in there because the car have wrong coolant in there, in the coolant system. So we're gonna flush it out, run the car with water in it, basically flush out the complete system. But if your car had the right coolant in there, just put a gallon of full strength G12 or G13 into the tank and then top it off with the water. Then run the car for 10-15 minutes, let it warm up, make sure it doesn't overheat. It might overheat due to the air pockets in the system, so make sure you're watching the temperature gauge. The good sign that the system is bled completely. When your car is up to the normal temperature, you turn on your heater on high end fans, and it's got to be blowing hot air at all times. If the air gets cool in the heater, that means that you have an air pocket. So heat on high, fan on high, hot air coming out of your system means your system is bled normally. And take it for a ride, 15-minute drive, and you should be alright. Once you have coolant, well, you're gonna have coolant, we have water because we're flushing the system. Once you have water or coolant coming out of the bleeder screw without any bubbles, that's pretty much full. Now you could start the car and monitor and see that, like, make sure you have no air pockets. Once the car running, you should open the bleeder screw once in a while and see we got some air still coming out of there. And wait for it to get out the air, so you gotta make sure there is no air bubbles coming out of the bleeder screw. Once you bled out the air out of the bleeder screw, let the car run for like 5-10 minutes. You see the temperature gauge start rising. Turn on the heater and see if you get warm air coming out. It's not going to be hot because the car is still cold, but if you have cold air coming out of your heater, that means you still have an air pocket in there. Bring the RPMs up, maybe 2000, 2200, and keep it in there for like 5-10 minutes. Watch the temperature gauge at all times. Like if you bring the RPMs up, I can feel the air starts coming out a little warmer. That means the system starts circulating better. Once you let go of gas, I could feel the air getting cooler, so we still have air in the system. Your goal is to get to the point where when you let go of gas, the air in the heater does not become much cooler. Once you get to that point, you could go for a test ride. Temperature is up to normal operating temperature. We're still keeping the RPMs higher, so the system, so the water pump pushes out all the air. Now our goal is to wait for the thermostat to open and for the fans to go on. Once you see the radiator fans go on, that means that the car is up to, the thermostat is open and the car is at the right temperature. If your air in your vents start to become cooler and cooler, once you reach the normal operating temperature, that means that there is an air pocket and it's blocking the way and your car might be overheating. So like our air just became cold. turn it off, let it sit for 5 minutes or so, let the engine cool down a bit, and push the air out. Go back to the bleeder screw, open it up, see we got air in there again. The air out again, close the bleeder screw. Don't tighten it all the time, just hand tight a little bit. Go back to the car, restart it again, and see how your heater is doing. Our heater is still cold. Bring up the RPMs. Now the heater gets hot. Keep it at about 2000 RPMs again for a couple of minutes. Watch the temperature gauge and monitor the heater temperature. Once again, if it's getting cooler, it means that the air pocket is blocking the way of cooling somewhere and you're not getting any circulation. So shut it off, let it sit, move the screw again, and do it until you have heat at all times.